In the front, the all-new Opel Mokka has a special new so-called visor. It's like, screen of a helmet or something, or the visor of a helmet, yeah. That's covered right here. It's closed and then leads over to the headlamps. They start standard with LED, optional matrix LED. And the interesting thing is, left or right here, this is the Ultimate and this is the GS line. Sporty look right here. Also, this is the highest trim. But which one of that one is the all-electric one? Well, I have to tell you, because from the outside you cannot differentiate it. And in this case, this is the electric one and this is the petrol one. But you could also have the styling all the way around. So you could also get an electric one here in the GS line with this Stormtrooper style, for example. That's, that's not making any difference. So just some E logos all over the vehicle then, showing you later from the front. It could just be the other way around. The length is at 4 meters 15, 13 foot 6 or 163 inches. And being the Ultimate trim in the green color. You can see here the chrome line. This is the main design line. Very interesting. And in the GS line, there would be this red stripe going over the vehicle. You can get contrasting roof colors here in black, white or red. That's also possible for more individualization. And wheels from 16 to 18 inch. These here are the 18 inch, both on the Ultimate and also on our GS line trim for today. And you can also get them, for example, in contrasting colors, or in this case then fitting colors to the exterior color. For example, we have here also the green car with the green wheels. It's also possible in red or blue and so on. So really, screaming out as for the color codes. This here with a contrasting mirror cup as well. And really very rare cases where the predecessor is a little bit longer than the successor of the vehicle here. Some strong shoulders right there. And once again, if it's the electric version or not, the only thing you can see is this E logo right here, the only indicator in the side profile. Opel wanted to be more German for the design once again, and therefore they also put these new tail lamps. Well, obviously the Vauxhall versions will also be more German in design. Then in low part, contrasting right here, and the electric version also once again gets the E logo right there, and the petrol version also you could see the exhaust tip. And I think it's good that you do not have for the pure green vehicle with a special electric look when you go for the E version, and also can just have the very same looks as with the other versions, because so far when we asked car customers, hardly anyone wanted to have like a special electric vehicle look or something. So please share your comments in our comment section as for that. So what do you think about the design overall here of the new Mokka? Tell us. This vehicle stands on a PSA Group platform, or now we have to call it Stellantis, this huge new automotive group. And this platform enables that they build the same vehicle on the same assembly line as an all-electric version and also as the petrol version or the diesel. Here, the all-electric one, 136 horsepower, the quickest one in the lineup with 9 seconds in the acceleration figure. Top speed 150 kilometers an hour, so around 90 miles an hour. And you have a 50 kilowatt hour battery that will give you an official maximum range of 320 kilometers or 200 miles. And the effective range, as it is here right now, today for example, you can calculate some 260 kilometers or 160 miles. Of course, not the biggest battery, not the biggest range, however, still usable if you primarily use it as a city electric vehicle. And the petrol, there's a 3-cylinder right here, turbo petrol engine, 1.2 liter, 130 horsepower is a top spec, or less one with 100 horsepower. And then there's also a 1.5 liter diesel. And recharging of the Mokka E is right here. Leave it at a household plug overnight, or here then 11 kilowatt AC charger for a powered wall box or for a charging station. Then get some 100 kilometers in the battery in 90 minutes, or DC charging here, maximum of 100 kilowatt, and we'll get some 100 kilometers in 12 minutes. First of all, the door closing sound. Sounds quite solid. And as I said earlier, also counts for the interior. You can pick any version here for an electric GS line or the Ultimate, or also for the petrol one, doesn't matter. Hard pack here inside of the doors. But this is then soft touch here with the leatherette insert here as well. And first showing you the more spectacular GS line. Here the sporty one with the racing red contrasts around the screens, for example, right there. Soon more details to the screens and so on. And then the seats, my favorite seats in the lineup. A base seat would also be available in pure fabric. This one here is a more elaborate fabric seats here with red contrast and some grey leatherette on the outside. So this seat in the GS line is completely animal free. Not the steering wheel, but the seat. And this is the Ultimate trim, the highest trim level. And then here with Alcantara inserts, which feels really premium. And then you also do not have the red contrast here, rather grey. And the seats here are then also with Alcantara on the inside. Also feels quite cozy. And the thing is that the outside parts here are also leatherette, but the inside-outside parts, let's call them that way, these here are from animal skin. And that's, of course, especially if you go for the electric version, want a more sustainable vehicle, not really fitting, but they're also working on a solution for a mid-cycle refresh for that vehicle. And let's already get inside with these seats. And let me put it to the lowest position here first. And with 1m86 or 6'1", plenty of headroom left. So usually I put the seat also a little bit higher. That's also a little bit more upright. It's more comfortable seating position. And I mean, it's a small SUV, but it doesn't feel that small. You already have a nice upright seating position. Feels comfortable. First seating here. Steering wheel in and out. Yeah, and requires some strength at least. Quality-wise, the steering wheel controls here, like the rubber here for the cruise control setting and so on, this doesn't resonate that well with some of the other details. Heated steering wheel is available, and here the volume control, and you can also mute right here, but it does the job. It's also not the most expensive vehicle, you have to bear that in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you on this flight MOKKAE, looking at the interior or the cockpit right here. So, and you would start with 7-inch screens left and right, and this is the optional setup, or automatically comes here in this Ultimate trim. Left side 12-inch, right side 10-inch. Soon more details to both of these screens. Here in the Ultimate trim we also have this carbon fiber style decor. It's of course not real carbon fiber. The top part here is not that soft, but also not that hard. Let's take it that way. This is, by the way, called Pure Panel by Opel, that it has, this one unit atmosphere. Then you still have some physical buttons, and that's to me better than the siblings. For example, if you think about the Peugeot 2008, you have a physical button here for the volume. That's of course pretty helpful, and also some hotkeys to go to the sat-nav pretty quickly or something. And also in this case, in the electric version, an e-hotkey that you can check your electric facts and so on. Soon more to that. Then in the lower part, also manual AC. I really like that. Temperature control, and also the vent strength or the seat heating. Straightforward, more conservative interior approach, but I think that's a good thing. In the lower part then, USB charging, USB-A for your smartphone, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, but also inductive charging pad is available. And then you have some hotkeys to activate or deactivate the assistant systems. For example, here for the lane keeping assist. So if that is annoying you, one press of a key and it's gone. And here the shifting lever, backward to drive, forward and to reverse, or the P again. And to go into the stronger recuperation mode, it's not like in the known electric vehicles or plug-in hybrids by Opel or Peugeot that you just push it backward once more like this. That doesn't do anything. You have to go here to the B mode button, and then you are in a stronger recuperation mode. And right next to that is the drive mode selector, like Eco, Normal, Sport for the throttle input, for example. And then we have cup holders which are not adaptive. And this is, by the way, the car key, also typical PSA style. Of course, the cooperation between an Opel, Peugeot and Citroën. And then we have the armrest with a leatherette cover. It's yeah, somewhat attached here, and open it, and a small cubby hole underneath. Now the main infotainment screen here on the right, the optional 10-inch one. Mokka E, you have the energy flow here as a visualization, for example, or then also some statistics when you have driven a longer time. There's this PSA trick of using 3 fingers, and then you always get back to a hidden main menu, which would not be accessible via a normal button, but it's good to know that it is possible. Or then you can also access the GPS here. The software here is, already somewhat outdated. Nothing special to await there. In the Insignia or the Astra, it is definitely better. But this one here with the Peugeot Citroën background, they didn't invest so much money in the infotainment system here. This is then again the E hotkey to get back to this menu again. And this hotkey here would bring you to the Apple CarPlay or the Android Auto if you have an Android phone. And if you go to the Apple CarPlay, this is the integration. So here, big bezel style alike, I would call it. And let's listen to the sound system. So here we go. And doesn't sound too bad here for the small vehicle, so satisfied with that. Last but not least, here you get to some vehicle options. You can also, for example, turn off and on the blind spot monitoring, but why would you turn it off? Always leave it on. Now to the rear seats. Of course, also hardback here at the inside of doors, but again, it's a good price performance car. Then Alcantara inserts in the top Ultimate trim. Would be fabric with red contrast in the GS line once again. There is a middle tunnel still, although it's a front-wheel driven platform, no matter if you go electric or with the petrol, for stability reasons and also for battery packaging reasons. Then USB chargers, you've also seen the middle tunnel, and well, it's a very short vehicle, and that means tall adults, if you drive also with a tall one in the front, doesn't really work. At least the seats are soft, so you have to squeeze yourself in here. But headroom-wise, there's no problem. So also tall adults fit in, at least height-wise. You can theoretically also occupy the middle seat. Theoretically, just I have to put my legs somewhere. Then you already fold the seats from here, 1/3, 2/3 split. Isofix here at the outsides. This is a very important moment in the history of our channel and for long-time subscribers, because I have a new folding ruler, which is now pure white and also shows centimeters and inches on the same folding ruler. And no, we were not paid to show this, therefore I also won't mention where I got it. So this is purely for you, the full 15 euros or something, just for you. So, and then we can also show you that the normal length of that trunk here we go, is about 60 centimeters or 24 inches. And the width of that trunk is right about 1 meter or 40 inches. And last but not least, the height to the cover. Here we go. 15 to 16 inches, around 40 centimeters. And you see I already have a setup right here with a backpack and a cabin trolley, so very well usable. Liter figures 350 up to approximately 1100. The electric version just has a little bit less of liter capacity, but I show you why or where. This is the same here, electric and petrol, totally the same. Underneath this cover, also the same, some more storage. You could put your charging cables also in here, for example, because you have no trunk. And then underneath, this is then where the electric version is a little bit limited because some of the battery packs are underneath. This is then where the petrol engine would have space for a replacement tire. And then we can also fold the seats like this. Again, 1/3, 2/3 split. You can reach over from here or do it from the rear compartment. This is then the absolute maximum setup. And at least when I would be driving, let's see what total length we can score. Here we go. So here we are at about 54 inches, almost 140 centimeters. And should you need more trunk height, you can put this thing out completely, that's possible, or just move it below, so both is actually possible. And when I put it out, just to show you then the maximum height setup, this is then more helpful actually. So then to the cover, you get about 50 centimeters or 20 inches, so gain about 10 centimeters. And then it's also easier with putting a backpack in here, even if it's a little bit higher. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Mokka E, all-electric version of the new Mokka. And we are at the Rüsselsheim Opel main plant, please. So we're leaving it here with their latest vehicle roundabout. Let's put it in right there, because battery, of course, is really low. Center of gravity is that's why it's really low, and that also enables a sporty driving experience. So we are in an SUV, but it rather feels like a small hot hatch. Let's take it that way. Suspension is also not that soft. The car stays rather upright. Now you're on these cobblestones, still quite comfortable. And brakes. You can of course use the brakes, but you also have recuperation. And in the standard mode, the standard D driving mode, the recuperation is not set too strong. It means when I lift the throttle, I rather roll. Then I can put it to the B mode. Now we have more recuperation, so when I go on the throttle and go back, there's more deceleration happening. And let's also put it to the sport mode, show you one first acceleration, like 30 to 70 kilometers. Plop, that's it. So you see, reasonably quick, especially in the city surroundings. So you just need about 2 seconds from 0 to 50. And I can show it again. Traffic light jump to red. I can do it again. Sports mode, boost the throttle input. It doesn't do that much, other than that, because there's no shifting process, of course, in the all-electric version. So that doesn't change anything majorly. It's quite silent in here, of course. And the electric driving is really fitting to the vehicle, because now, plop, that was 0 to 70 kilometers an hour, and we are gone. Again, the E version, the Mokka E, the quickest from the whole lineup. And it's really so much fun, definitely the most fun version because of the instant acceleration, because you also have a silent experience at the same time, and lower center of gravity. It feels most agile, although it is the heaviest, of course, because of the battery pack. It feels most agile because of the good or better weight distribution than in this case. Also, when we do lane change here, a lot of fun to put it around. It feels astonishingly high, by the way. So it is a small SUV, and you wouldn't expect such a high driving feeling, but it really already feels like a bigger SUV because you sit quite high. So this is also a major difference if you compare the platform, rather the Opel Corsa. They really have a significant difference after that. Since I'm more used to electric vehicles which have a stronger recuperation, I usually put it in the B mode, so I already have deceleration when I lift the throttle. Most of the time when we lift the throttle, we also want to decelerate. If you want it still rolling when you're on the B mode, then just stay a little bit on the throttle, and then you can still use this rolling effect, so that works no problem. Roundabout visibility to the rear, to sides, actually quite good, but yeah, the B pillar's a little bit blocking, therefore you should get the blind spot monitor. That's definitely very helpful to have that one. Here now at 70 kilometers an hour, like countryside or higher speed, outside city driving speed, again, reasonable noise insulation. They did special insulation here for this vehicle. There's also an additional optional insulation package you can get. This is also equipped with this very vehicle, and therefore it's also quite silent. But we also get on the motorway and see how it performs right there. Once again, the steering feeling is very direct and natural and precise, so I'm really happy with that. Like this, and yeah, really stays pretty much upright. So I would rather say a stiff setup, but again, when I'm going over some bumps or so, not noticing any major negative aspects as for that. The seats are also quite, I would say, narrow. They rather keep you tight. I have to check how they perform long term. So far, a good impression, but there is also one case where you feel that it's not the biggest SUV. If you are a little bit taller, then of course you also usually have a little bit more comfort when you go for for a bigger segment. But overall, the driving feeling so far is actually quite elaborated. Once again, a little bit of a throttle, then deceleration. Also see it in the charge meter then that they go into this recalibration stage. And predicted range here at the moment is 280 kilometers now with 94 battery status charging. Of course, I also did acceleration now, so there's always then the prediction based on how you have been driving before, and therefore also this prediction went down now a little bit. I can also go back to the normal mode or even to the eco mode, then the throttle input is reduced even more. So then up on this right lane here, and I can show you something else. Not sure. Whoa, that vehicle burned out completely. Whoa, how did that happen? So interesting here, the rear view camera, maybe you can see that here a little bit on the action cam. So when I have the rear view camera in, it's pretty small, and the drone view from above is basically faked or built up because there's no side camera on the mirrors, just front and rear, and therefore the rear view camera image is live, but the fake drone view from above image is not live and built up. That's one flaw, but it's also due to cost savings at the system that was introduced by the PSA group. So once again, it feels quick and agile, and I clearly can say that the electric version is so much more fun to drive than the petrol version, both because of the calmness and also because it's just quicker and more agile to drive. So from a driving customer perspective, if you leave anything else aside, the electric version is just the better one to drive. Once again, it is a question of, do you have the charging infrastructure, and also what about long range hauls. So if you're driving 500 kilometers every day, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and so on, that can of course be a problem then with the range we have right here. But for most other use cases, you'll be totally fine with that. And now, let's head on to the motorway. Yeah, here in these, faster corners, you feel that a Corsa E would feel sportier because we're definitely higher with this vehicle. It's, as I said, it's a nice agile driving feeling. So now we're getting on the motorway. Let's see how it behaves there. Look how quick we came out of the corner. Oh, we have to get in before the driving school. That's better. Yeah, here now when we are already at speed, then it makes a difference when you have the electric version. There the petrol has a little bit more performance, but of course it also depends on the driving mode a little bit more. So when we go back to the sport mode, see what acceleration we have when we are at speed already. So it's about 90 kilometers an hour. Let's see, let the car pass. Speed recognition is also not correct here at the moment. So when we then go from 90 kilometers an hour, here we have a little bit more punch in the sport mode. See, it takes a while. That's 130 kilometers an hour. So around 80 miles an hour. And still, noise insulation is still quite reasonable, so it's not too loud in here. And that's also a good motorway speed. The top speed, 150 kilometers an hour. Let's see if we can reach that. And see if it's true. Is it? Now the power is dropping, 152, yeah. Because the gauges always like preload a little bit, so that you don't never drive, faster than it actually shows. This also then confirmed. So only drawback of the electric vehicle is that you do not have so much acceleration when you're already at a higher speed and then accelerate out further. That's the only thing you have to live with, so it won't have the best high-speed performance. Then, of course, very interesting is, what about when we are at a reasonable motorway speed, and what about the energy economy then. So let's put it to the normal mode, 100 kilometers an hour, straight road. I'll reset the trip meter, and actually now the cruise control, here we go. So, and we should end up with some 17 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers or 27 kilowatt hours on 100 miles, and that should equal the range figure we get. And yeah, indeed. So we were at about 18, now around 19 kilowatt hours on 1 kilometers. That's somewhat fitting then here to the 288 kilometer projected range. Now here the adaptive cruise control is also acting with the car in front of us, or also with traffic sign recognition. Here, for example, realized it gets 80 now with a new traffic sign, and also reducing the speed. That's well done. And as for the lane keeping assist, you have to activate the cruise control here on the left side of the steering wheel, and then have to activate it with the lower button. And then we have the active lane keeping assist, not like a run of road protection just. And this one here is now actively keeping me in the lane. Let's see, so I'm not steering at the moment, I'm just like holding onto the steering wheel barely. He also says, keep your hand on the steering wheel. Evil Thomas. So, and let's say when I go straight, of course, nothing spectacular and so on. But let's say I go off to the side just a little bit. Now it's getting active again. Now it's giving me back to the center of the lane. It's not that intrusive, I have to say. It's rather smoothly integrated. Now to a little bit to the side, now to the middle again. And the good thing is, when it would be annoying too much, it's just easy. Here, deactivate it, and then you see it's off. And then it's just like this emergency lane keeping assist that is keeping you in lane when you're like maybe starting to sleep or something, but not in an active way. But here again, activated, and you also see this steering wheel symbol, and it turns green as soon as it's really active. And now we're entering a construction site, and this will be very interesting to see what happens then. So let's see. Of course, running straight is an easier task. Now also switching to the yellow lines. It's still active. I'm prepared. No, didn't catch that. Yeah. So some cars can do that actually. Recognizing also different colors of the lines and so on. In this case you saw I had to intervene myself. So basic lane keeping assist, the active lane keeping assist is working, but not catching the fiercest test. Blind spot monitor we can explore a little bit easier. So let's see. There we are. It is working in a way of the PSA group. We have this dot in the moment where the car is in the blind spot monitor. Held to the traffic control here. Speeding ticket, not gathered today. Not always. So here we go. So with the blind spot monitor you have to bear in mind that it doesn't give you a heads up warning far in advance, but more just in the second the car is in the blind spot monitor. I think that's the more dangerous approach, but you can also argue pro and con as for that solution for sure. So far feeling quite good here on the motorway. It's not that you would say, oh, it's a small electric SUV, you don't feel at home on the motorway. It's totally fine. And once again, the energy economy, 16 kilowatt hours and 100 kilometers. So we get to this figure, which would then equal around 300 kilometers or 190 miles. So this is also then confirmed. And this would be a consumption like a normal average consumption when you go a little bit back and forth in the city and countryside and so on. You can go even lower than in consumption in the city, but also then when you keep it rather steady on the motorway. Of course, the energy consumption will get really, really high when you go like maximum speed. And some really want to know that what's that like. So one more acceleration here. Here on the normal mode, it's really kind of slow. We have to put the sport mode that you still get on speed when we are on the motorway. And so we'll leave out the acceleration now. So I'll reset the speedometer when we are at the maximum speed, 150 kilometers an hour. So here we are, 150. I'm not accelerating anymore. So now we'll reset it. And let's see what we score. Usually, it goes way up then. Let's see. Yeah, 46. So that's like 3 times the normal minimum consumption. 44. Whew. Yeah, that's of course tough, and you can also imagine now why they have actually limited this vehicle here to that speed, to 150 kilometers an hour or 90 miles an hour, because it just doesn't make sense. It drains the battery almost instantaneously. But for shorter periods of time, you can of course drive fast. Or if you say like, I have enough battery left, the route is not too long, of course it will be way more efficient putting just cruise control and 100 or 120 kilometers an hour and keeping it rather in the middle or the right lane. This is not the high speed EV, that's not how it's laid out to be. But still, reasonably silent. Not that quick, of course, when we are at speed, that's one drawback then. But other than that, also feels homey on the motorway. And once again, you don't feel too small, although it's a small SUV. Overall, I think we gathered a lot of very good impressions here from the Mokka eDrive. Now as a comparison, the petrol version, 130 horsepower, and the automatic gearbox, so we can also better compare that. And I started the other part with the electric vehicle here in the roundabout, and that's what I do here as well. And I mean, it doesn't feel like a completely different vehicle, but it somewhat does have a different feeling, definitely. So you feel that the center of gravity is a little bit lower than with the EV. I mean, a little bit, actually significantly. So it still feels agile, but that's really the funny thing here with the EVs. Although they are heavier, they feel sportier because of the different center of gravity. Pretty cool. So here with the petrol engine now, of course, you hear that sound, and you don't have this torque that is instantaneously there. So in the city here, the EV feels definitely way quicker. So just from the get-go, from zero, the EV is way quicker, and that's of course also more fun. But driving-wise, driving agility-wise, I can still say it's still a lot of fun because the steering is direct. The car has this rather sporty suspension, but which is not uncomfortable at all. Automatic gearbox. Sometimes, trying to find the right gear. It's not bad at all, no. But that's also a big difference then in the, how the customer feels the car. So with the EV, it's just like, it's flawless. Just like, it's there. And here with the shifting process you feel in here with the automatic gearbox, of course even more so if you would do that manually, this is a significant difference which makes the EV driving so much more pleasing. So sportier and calming at the same time, basically, you can say. Typical 3-cylinder sound here. This sounds a little bit more growling or sonorous than a 4-cylinder actually. It's interesting. Okay, seen that. Gefühl. So the sound is actually not too bad, actually quite nice. So from 0, it's a little bit slower, yes, but the thing is that we will soon experience it also on the motorway. When you are at speed already, at higher speeds, then the petrol engine will do a better job at giving you a nice acceleration when you are already at speed. It is a small engine, yes, 1.2 liter, 3-cylinder, but you have that turbo, and that means that already when you are at speed, you still have some decent acceleration going further. So, and here once again, right, left, good feeling for the vehicle. When you're just rolling and the car is, not making any significant engine sound or something, then you could also be sometimes mistaken in which am I in actually. And once again, here the GS line with the red contrast and so on, with these fabric seats, you could get the very, very same one also for the EV version, so that's still possible. And I think it's also good that they have this flexibility, If you ask me, to the Peugeot 2008, of course, they do feel quite similar because they're on the same platform. They share so much. So it's rather to me a question than Peugeot 2008 or Opel Mokka or Vauxhall Mokka. Do you want to have these manual dials? Then the Opel is the one for you, and they also have a more natural steering feeling. So the more conservative approach in the interior, which is to me the better user interface. Then when it comes to the steering especially, the Peugeot has this, very modern cockpit atmosphere and the so-called iCockpit, and it's somehow fun and more special. But this one here with more feeling then, and again, better user interface. However, the Peugeot looks fancy on the interior. So yeah, that's a thought about that. Back to the EV versus petrol. Sometimes it can be a little bit calming when you have a rolling sonorous petrol sound, of course. That's typical because just our brain is reacting on that. It's also something why is a V8 sound so sounds so cool to so many of us? Because it really, there have been like some science about that, or some research, because it really connects to something which we have in our brain and attached to something like which we developed in evolution and so on. It's really very interesting. Why is that? So need to Google that. Really interesting things about that. But it's not that it would be missing when you drive the EV, especially not with the smaller vehicles. Inside the city, we can also set the cruise control, by the way, here, activating left thumb, and then setting 1 or 2 plus, here, left thumb, no problem. And then you can also keep the speed here in the city, that you don't exceed the speed limit and so on. Once again, lane change. It's really a lot of fun to drive it in an agile way. Yet again, we sit high, already have this SUV feeling. Oh, and no speeding ticket today. It's been a while since I got one, luckily. So always try to keep it safe and always try to avoid the speeding tickets. When you look down here, of course, you don't see a difference then. Here, when we go to the Sport, Normal or Eco mode, it will change a little bit more with the... it will change a little bit more with the petrol cars, because it also changes the shifting. So whereas with the EV we pick the different driving modes, and it basically just changes the tune a little bit, so you get a little bit more power. Here also, not only then the throttle input or the power that is being generated, but also the shifting. So in the sports mode, it will shift up later and shift down earlier, so you have a more significant difference than in the different driving modes. And we also have the pedals here at the steering wheel, where we can also then have a manual somewhat shifting up and down. For example, when you're on a motorway and want to do an acceleration or overtaking, you shift down a gear or two beforehand yourself, then you have a quicker response, definitely. So, and of course we want to test it on the motorway as well. Yeah, it's always so funny when you drive the EVs first and then go back to the petrol engines. Even if you have good combustion engines, you sometimes think like, which century am I in? Not to take anything away from the good combustion engines, but the EV just feel more on point, more in time, definitely, because you think here when standing still now on traffic, the engine here is still running. Yes, there are those start-stop functions. Now at the moment, Sync doesn't want to, probably because of the AC or something. But then the start-stop functions are also not necessarily good for the engine. With the EVs, it doesn't matter, and then you can stop, just roll a little bit forward. In taxi lanes, electric vehicles, of course, would be awesome, and also to keep the pollution out of the city and so on. Looking at that one here, singularly, it's still a good driving experience, and for this small 3-cylinder engine, it's actually delivering a good and a smooth performance. If you go for the automatic transmission, it's a question of price, of course, and if you want that comfort, it's always a better comfort. Here in the sport mode, you heard that, turning up the gears, little bit higher, shifting later. Now we have the first acceleration for you. We start at 40 kilometers an hour and accelerate it out. Flop, that's 100 kilometers an hour. So this was definitely not quicker than with the EV, and you have this massive difference when you from slow speed to the little bit higher speeds. There the EV really plays out its advantages. However, if you are already at speed, then turbo can still kick in here, and then it's more rather in favor of the petrol engine, because here so that's 120 kilometers an hour. So there's still something coming, but I mean, it's not a very quick acceleration either, so not too powerful. But I mean, it is somewhat the right size for the vehicle. It's not a big vehicle, therefore we also don't need the big engines for that. Sitting here also on the cruise control and also sitting on the lane keeping assist. So here we go. Lane keeping assist is also on. And then we are also actively kept in the lane once again. And we can also relax. And noise insulation at this speed here, tire noise and wind noise play the major role and not necessarily engine. The engine you only hear when you do this acceleration here again. There we go. So, and now I want to know the normal consumption when we go cruise control on the motorway here. So we reset the consumption meter. Let's go back to the normal driving mode, and we are about 120 kilometers an hour. And let's see what average consumption we get right here. So with about 6, now it's going down a little bit, so between 6 and 7 liters. That's somewhat usual then for this kind of petrol engine. Of course, when we go downhill here for a longer time, it goes down, but I can also give you an update towards the end of our conclusion. We'll drive this car here a little bit further now and then give you the final average. Of course, cannot really compare to the electric vehicle. One of the major differences is that you just have a higher range here with this vehicle. Of course, they don't have the too big petrol tank here, fuel tank. Let's see, we are not entirely full. Let's see. Yeah, at the moment is about, I would say, like 3/4, something like that. I would say so, yeah. And now it's taking 330 kilometers, so the total range then should be some like close to 500 kilometers or so. And that's, of course, just gives you more flexibility than with the petrol engine. At the moment, it's basically shut off. Again, the start-stop, also counting how many seconds it is actually active. So once again, I can conclude the driving experience definitely better with the EV. Quicker, calmer, just more pleasant to drive, feels sportier, feels somehow better. Still, it's not a completely different vehicle, and you need this one if you don't have the charging infrastructure and if you need a way higher daily range. And now to our conclusion for today with the all-new Opel Mokka or Vauxhall Mokka. Of course, with a focus on the Mokka E, the all-electric version, very interesting drive, and also to compare the electric one with the petrol one. From the exterior styling, no doubt it is rather screaming out something daring, and Opel wanted to bring, something fresh, but also something more German again, with a more angular approach with the lights, with the so-called Opel Compass, like this line, and then here, like a compass, then with the visor, with this helmet style, here in the Stormtrooper look. And I think it's also quite cool that you can go with any styling for any engine version. So this could also be the Mokka E, if you want that styling. The roof would usually come in the vehicle color, and then, as I said earlier, you can also get the contrasting tones like the black one here, but also white or red. It's just that they limit, for example, that you cannot get a red roof for a green vehicle or something, but that's maybe also good. Yeah, then interior, you have, good seating position in the front actually, not too much legroom in the rear, but it's also a very short car, so that's no wonder. Still, you can use it for everyday groceries and so on. The interior quality is not, super high-class premium as we could expect in this price segment, but you get some very attractive seats, especially then here, that one in the GS line, which is also animal-free and goes with this red racing contrast styling. The Alcantara seats are also pretty nice, but do have an animal share, so you have to think about that if you want that. Then infotainment system-wise, you have bigger screens now than in the predecessor, but due to this PSA platform background, the infotainment software is not that convincing, so rather plug in your phone, use the Apple CarPlay and the Android Auto system. Driving-wise, it feels very agile. The suspension is astonishingly sporty, but not uncomfortable. And that's, I think, one of the best things driving-wise with this vehicle. So you already have quite high seating position. That's different to a Corsa, for example. At the same time, it still feels sporty and agile. Especially then the electric version with the lower center of gravity with the battery pack. So it's heavier, but feels sporty. And it's also quicker in the acceleration, especially from the get-go from 0 kilometers. Both electric and petrol are, a little bit exhausted when you are at higher speeds and then accelerated out further on the motorway, but that's also not the primary goal of this vehicle. As for the consumption, we had like 16, 17 kilowatt hours on 100 kilometers with the electric one. That's like 27 kilowatt hours on 100 miles. And here, some 6 liters on 100 kilometers. So we are very well in the 30 mpg to 30 to 40 mpg regions. So that's also, nothing, super special, not super low, not super high. Means then with a range here of around about 300 kilometers or 200 miles, of course, almost double the range than with the petrol engine. That's one thing, advantage for the petrol engine. So at the end of the day, which one would be my pick? The electric one, definitely more fun to drive. And just 2 crucial things. If you can recharge at home, if you have a good charging infrastructure, and if you're not a salesman who is driving like super long mileage every day, then the electric one is definitely a choice for you. Pricing wise, starts with the entry-level petrol engine with about 20,000 euros in Germany, goes up to, like 30,000. And this one here, the electric one, 34,000 to maximum 40,000. That sounds definitely more expensive at first, is also true. Then it depends on what about the governmental subsidiaries and so on. So if you deduct these then and also the, long-term savings, lower energy cost, lower running cost, lower taxation and so on, then it can also somewhat even out that price difference. Very interesting insight for today. I hope you really enjoyed it. Please post in the comments which version would you actually go for and which trim level. See you there.